understand that when it comes to word problems, a lot of you, including me, actually, have that kind of anxiety of, wow, this is so hard. The wording, what the wording has anything to do with math like that, right? But if you think about it further, word problems is actually the bridge from math to real life. Math and real life. When you ask that question, when will I ever use what I learned here? Now you will see that the bridge is actually word problems. Now, word problems has a negative connotation for a lot of math students. So they change, they don't use the terms, the phrase word problems anymore. They sometimes change that into the word application, or in this textbook, they change it to the word modeling. Okay, but if you look into that, then you see, oh, it's basically word problems. Now, so while I understand that it creates some anxiety when you learn this, but at the same time, I would like you to realize that this is what connects you to real life. Okay, so we should not avoid this. We know it will not be easy. Okay, it really connects with connect what we learn in math, which is a very virtual world, and connected to our real world and using math in solving our problems. Now, what we learn here is the foundations of translating words into mathematical notation, okay? And most of you actually going through Calculus for Business, right? So in Calculus for Business, you know, business is a very applicable course, very applicable major, and math is actually a very big portion of that. You really need to know that. Okay. Let me tell you a little background of me. I did my PhD at USC, and during my study, I didn't finish my PhD, by the way. I didn't finish my PhD. I only did 2 years there, and I get hired at West Elliott College after 2 years. So I stopped going there, and I come here. Yes, I have a break in between because of family issue. Well, anyway, during my study at PhD study at USC, I was given an opportunity to teach at their business school. Now you know that USC Business School is actually quite well known, right? And when I get in there, when I start teaching there, I thought I only teach one course. I did only teach 1 or 2 courses, 2 different courses, in total of 4. In total of 4, but there are only 2 different courses. But when I ask the students, it turns out that they need to take a lot of math courses. You know, and from there I realized, oh, you know what? Then even in business class, a business major, math is actually quite significant. And you may think that, oh, you know what, I'm not a math person. I go to business because I don't like math, for example. Now, it turns out that I realize, it takes me some time though, after I start teaching, that I start realizing this. You know, some people say that they are not for math, weak in math. Right? Now, you may think you are one of them, okay? And it turns out that it's not really about weak in math. Okay, some people are weak in math, but what I want to say that there are a big portion of people who say that they are weak in math, okay, a big portion of that actually not really weak in math. They are not really weak in math. Okay, they just don't see the application. They don't see how it relates to their real life. And because because the math that you learn is irrelevant to you, then you lose interest, and therefore you don't study enough, and therefore you become weak. Okay, I have seen that. Now the thing is, like, in my business calculus or business class at USC, once we start relating it to real life, especially to their major, suddenly they become really, really good. Suddenly they know what to do. Okay, so don't look down on yourself when you say and saying that, oh, math is not my forte, for example. Well, it's not your forte, maybe because you don't see the relation, how it relates to your real life. You don't see how you will apply that later on. Okay, but through this 1.3, we have a chance to see how what we learn here relates to our real life. Maybe just a little bit, but I hope it opens a small door for a hope that that you can tell yourself, no, you're not. I'm not really weak in math. I just don't see the relevance yet. Okay, and for that, I can more or less blame your previous teacher. Okay, and what I try to do here is try to relate that to your real life. Of course, more things to learn after this 1.3, and basically we go back to the math world, right? But then when you go to calculus, you will see a lot more application in real life. Okay, so I hope my talk here actually give you some hope and give you some spirit to push a bit harder. Okay, don't get discouraged with word problems. Uh, as it it does take some time for us to build the bridge, but once you get used to it, you will be fine. Okay, now let's start with the material. I will do basically go over the even numbers here. Okay, I hope I don't need to do all of them, but at the same time, there are things we can learn. Therefore, I want to go over them in detail, in more detail. The first one, the word natural number. Natural number is the set of integers start from 1. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. When you hear the word whole number, the phrase whole numbers, they will start from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. Natural numbers start from 1. Now, the word consecutive means they are next to each other. Next to each other. Okay. Now, if we do number 20, for example, if we do number 20, we do it here. The product of two consecutive natural numbers, write an algebraic expression. Now, usually, when it comes to word problems, one of the key steps that we usually look down is defining variable. Okay? If the problem does not define the variable for you, then you need to define the variable yourself. Okay, now the thing is we have two natural numbers and they are consecutive. Okay, so let's say one of them is n. Let n be the smaller. They are two, right? And they're consecutive. So let's say let n be the smaller consecutive, the smaller natural number. Now, if n is the smaller, is a natural number, what is the next natural number? There will be n plus 1. Remember, they're consecutive. Okay, so if your first natural number is 3, for example, then your next one will be 4, right? You add 1 to it. Is it okay? So basically, they're saying so n and n plus 1 are the two consecutive natural numbers. Now then, Now, once we set up that two consecutive natural numbers, what the word product means. What the word product means, that's multiplication. Okay, so the product of these two numbers will be the first number times the second number. I use parentheses to emphasize the grouping. Okay, so for that number 20, the answer is n times n plus 1, where the n is the smaller natural number. Number 22, the sum of the squares. Number 22, the sum of the squares of two consecutive even integers. So there are two even integers. Let's define one of them. They actually tell us here. The first of which is 2n. The first of which is 2n. Now, consecutive even integers are, for example, 4 and then 6 and then 8 and then 10 and on, in which from one even integer to the next even integer, you add 2. You keep on adding 2. You keep on adding 2, right? So if the first one is 2n, the 2n is the first even integer, the smaller even integer, then what will be the larger one? From the small one to the next one, you add 2. Right? Okay, so the sum of the squares of those two numbers, the first number is 2n, the second number is 2n plus 2. Okay, now one more problem with how we approach, including me, I'm talking about me too. The one problem on how we approach word problems is this. We tend to read too fast. We tend to read too fast. Okay. Slow down a little bit. Slow down a little bit. What I'm about to say right now is coming from my research, not a formal research, but to be more precise, observation on the following situation. Okay, I believe a lot of you have heard this people saying that, you know what, Asians can do better math. Anybody have heard that? Asians can do better math. Okay, only one person, then good for you. Only one. Yeah. Okay. Now, and since the very beginning, when I heard that, I have two impressions with that statement though. First, saying that Asians are better in math, if you think about it, it's actually a racist statement. You know, okay? How can somebody's ability in math is decided by that person's skin? No, it doesn't make sense, right? No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm Asian. You can see I'm Asian, okay? And I don't believe that Asians can do better math. Well, okay, I happen to teach math, okay? So the fact that I'm good in math right now, it's not because I'm Asian. No, it's because I study my ass off. Okay, I study so freaking hard. But if you ask yourself further why you are not strong in math, some students in LA at least identified the following. They are not good in math when it comes to first fraction, and second when it comes to word problems. Okay, and then you observe students from Asian country, that's what we call Asian students, tends to do better in math, right? Now, let me tell you two reasons. Let me tell you two reasons why they seems to do better in math in America, okay? Now, I purposely leave this recorded so that you can come back and think about this, okay? This is for you though, I say this for you. And I say this because I don't want you to get discouraged because your skin color doesn't match with that, that prejudice actually, okay? No, it's not, it's a wrong myth, okay? I want to refute that and I reject that. I do not want to, I don't not want my student being judged by their skin color on how they will do in math. But I can give you two reasons at least. Actually, I found three reasons why it seems like Asian students doing better in math. The first one, okay, first, main reason. In Asian countries, in Asian countries, math is taught very early. Very, very early. That's the very first reason. When were you first required to memorize multiplication table? Do you remember what grade?
Like third or fourth grade.
Third or fourth grade, okay. I was required to memorize multiplication table when I was in my first month in first grade. We learned adding and subtracting when we were in kindergarten. And I'm talking about 3 or 4 digits adding and subtracting in kindergarten. We learned fraction, early fraction at the end of the first grade. We focus on fractions on the second grade. We learned geometry in 5th grade. And the geometry was done in a fun way, not like in America. It's kind of like a lot of proving, right? We did proving too, but we did proving in the 9th grade. We did the proving in the 9th grade, but we start geometry, Pythagorean theorem, so on and so forth, in the 5th grade. And it was done in a fun way. We actually, when it comes to geometry class, there are times we go out from classroom and we actually measure this, measure that in the schoolyards, you know, okay? So, a better education system, no, I don't want to say that way too, you know. I just want to say that in Asian countries, they teach math a lot earlier, such that here's what you will see, okay? Here's what you see. These students, when they come to America, expectedly, they have learned more than what you have learned at the same level. In other words, students from Asian country, by the time they come to America, they already done with pre-calculus. Even if their major is not in math, like not science related, they should have at least already done with pre-calculus. While in America, we have plenty of students, they don't even finish Algebra 2 properly when they graduate high school. Okay, now because of that, then imagine you as somebody who see Asian students from America point of view. Then you will think that they are better in math, right? Can you follow me? Can you follow me? Like they already learned pre-calculus back in their country, okay? And then when they come here, they take the same class with you, repeating their pre-calculus, let's say, or repeating their college algebra, let's say, but they already learned that. They already learned that in their country. The reason they still need to repeat college algebra, for example, or algebra, for example, was because they're English. Okay? They didn't understand the wording in the placement test, for example, such that they didn't well in the placement test, but they're okay with their math. They are not okay with their English. That's why they get pushed back into, let's say, our college algebra class or algebra class, right? Okay. Now I'm speaking from Asian point of view, and I'm Asian. Okay, I can tell you that. Okay, so instead, sometimes if I see, I'm sorry, if I see, yeah, if I see Asian students in my algebra class, especially if I see an Indonesian or Singaporean in my algebra class, I will say, what are you doing here, right? And then they say, well, I need to take this class because I didn't do well in the placement test at that time. But they say, well, but you're supposed to have learned this in your country. In other words, knowing that you have learned this kind of math in your middle school and high school, okay, I'm talking to Asian students, knowing that you have learned math in your middle school and high school, okay, algebra especially, not college algebra, I'm talking about lower class algebra, okay, then it should be shame on you to repeat those algebra 1 and algebra 2 classes here. Don't you think so? You have learned it before, okay, while a lot of you in my class, for example, have not learned math, not even algebra 2 properly for a long time, right? So putting them in my class together with my students who were American educated, their math will be not balanced, you know, okay? And it makes students, my students who actually did high school in America, feel discouraged as if they are behind, but no, you are not behind. You have seen this only one or twice in your life, while students from Asian country, from Asian education system, have seen this the same thing many, many times. Of course, they should do better. They're supposed to do better, right? Oh, by the way, I want to say that simply because the math is taught earlier there doesn't mean their education system is better. No, it's not. If you pay attention, American education system focus more on, especially at early stage, like my son, right, at school, they focus more on the social skill, motoric skill, okay, and of course the language, communication, okay, how to interact. And you notice that in Asian country, because they focus too much on math and science, yeah, they focus too much on math and science. Oh, what happened? Yeah, they focus too much on math and science, then you know they don't really have enough time for example, their Indonesian language, for their social skill, their motoric skill. You see what I mean? Okay. Now, so do not be surprised that even though Asian countries' math is better, okay, but when it comes to sports, for example, American is better. That's from our education system, right? So don't be discouraged, okay? Okay, when somebody say Asians math is better, no, they learn it more there. They learn it earlier, so they're supposed to do that well. If you give yourself the same amount of time, you start at the same way, you should be as good as they are at least, right? Okay, so every time anybody say that to you, every time you tell yourself that I'm not Asian, so I don't do well in math, remember what my talk here. Okay, that's not true. Okay, and I can tell you how many students, black students especially, that have done very, very well in my classes. Okay, do you believe that I actually support one black student myself? I mean, from my own pocket, because he did so well in my class that I helped him with his study at UC Riverside. And he is in electrical engineering. You know, electrical engineering is not a Mickey Mouse class. But that's how good he is, such that I'm willing to actually put my money where my mouth is. Okay, not just saying he's good. No, I'm not just saying that he's good. I'm saying that I actually bet on him. Okay, I let him borrow my money, thousands of dollars, and I say, once you get that job, you pay me back, and you will pay me back more. Why? Because I know you can do it. Of course, I don't really expect him to pay back though. Okay, it's just like to push him there, to show that I trust him so much that he can do it. Okay, now another reason related to our word problems here. When it comes to word problems, strangely in America, Asian students is better. And it's actually not only Asian students. Any students whose native language is not English tends to do better when it comes to word problems. That is a fact. Not always, but most of the time. Okay. Now, I did not understand that until much later when I went back to Indonesia. I did my undergrad in Indonesia, and I still keep in touch with my school back in Indonesia. And my school happens to be quite a good school. So my university back in Indonesia have some foreign students, like some of them also from America, some from England, some from Europe, from Middle East, actually taking classes at my university. And my professors did tell me that these students from other countries tend to do better in math, especially word problems. Strange. Strange. What strange is this? What strange is this? This is America, US, this is Indonesia. Okay, okay. Indonesian, let's say, I just use this as an illustration. Indonesian students coming to America, they do better in word problems compared to American students. US students going to Indonesia, they do better in word problems in Indonesia compared to Indonesian students. Do you think it's strange? And then when I go further, I figure out the following. The reason foreign students do better in word problems when it comes to American education, is because when they read questions, they cannot read fast. Their English is not as good. So when they read it, they have to read it slowly. It turns out that's the key to how you do well in word problems. Why? Because American students, just like other foreign students in Indonesia, when they go to Indonesia and take math word problems in math, they are forced to read that slowly because their Indonesian not as good, right? They are not super fluent in Indonesians. So when they read Indonesian passage, they have to read it slowly. Why? Because they want to understand. Okay, their weakness, American student in Indonesia, their weakness in reading Indonesian passage, Indonesian sentences, turns out to be their key strong point that make them understand. Now, learn from that. Okay, if all you need to do is just slow down, read slower, understand the passage first, I don't think that's a hard problem then. All you need to do is read it slow enough. Okay, do not read the whole paragraph and then try to understand it. No, read one sentence, understand it. Read another sentence, understand it. And of course, do not forget the setup. Okay, do not forget the setup. Define the variable. Okay, don't forget that one. Are you with me, everybody? So the second reason, okay, the second reason is read for comprehension. Strangely, after I realized what happened here, then I remember what my professors back in Indonesia said before. When I took his class, so it was in 1999. Yeah, in 1999, when I took his class, he once made this statement that kind of like made me feel really strange. He gave me an article. He gave the class actually an article in English. He gave an article in English. So imagine Indonesian school. We're supposed to speak Indonesian and the article is supposed to be in Indonesian, right? Now, he did his PhD in University of Washington and then sent back to Indonesia to teach there. So the article is in English, okay? And then it turns out that in the other section that he taught, so he taught two sections of mathematical modeling class. So one class, he gave that article in English. And the other class, he gave the same article in Indonesian. Okay, later on we found out it's his article. He's the one writing it. So he actually wrote it in Indonesian first and then translated to English. Okay, and it turns out people who read it in English actually doing better. Strange, even though our native language is Indonesian. Now, he said this, his observation is students who read it in Indonesian, when they read that article, it's mathematical article, they finished reading this in 10 minutes. While students who get the article in English finish reading it in 1 hour. But the next day when he gave the quiz, students getting the article in English is actually doing significantly better. And he said this, you know what's the different people, like when he actually yelled at us, right? You know what's the different people? You read it too fast. You read it as if your life not depending on it. You need to read it as if that's your Bible. That's what he said. And then, so once I kind of like discover about this reading with comprehension, I remember what he said to us. When you read with understanding. When I ask you to read that article, I'm not asking you just to read, just to finish reading it, but you need to read it with comprehension. Okay, I guess to prove my point, I want to ask you this question. The first black president in America, Mr. Obama. Any one of you knows how old he is? Don't cheat. Do you know how old he is at the back of your head? At the back of, no, you don't know? Okay, yeah, you don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know too. So don't blame yourself if you don't know, okay? Do you know your mom's age? Yeah. Do you know why you know your mom's age and not Mr. Obama's age? Relevance, connection, okay? It's like how old Mr. Obama right now, not that I disrespect him, no. I mean, he was our president, okay? But I mean, in our social social context is like this. Even when I read in the newspaper that Mr. Obama was the one, I think he was the youngest president elected to be a president, okay? At least one of the youngest, okay? But how old he was has nothing to do with me as long he did a good job as a president, right? Okay? So because it has nothing to do with me, how old he is, so even if I read it 10 times, 100 times in the news, it won't register in my mind because what? It has nothing to do with me. While how old my mom, even though I need to think like around 10 seconds, 20 seconds, it's related to me. Why? Because I need to realize at one point I will be the one supporting her, right? At one point I need to realize that he cannot move. She is not as mobile as she was before, right? So if I want her to enjoy traveling, I need to actually let her do it before she gets too old, for example, right? I won't think about that for Mr. Obama, right? Why? It's about the relevance, okay? So why we don't register what we learn in math? Again, because you don't see them to be related. Now, once you see this as related to you, or at least you think about it, you know what, I want to learn this because it's important for my understanding, for my business calculus, for my degree in long run, for my job in even longer run, okay, and the big picture will be a better family if I have a good job, okay? But it starts from little thing like this, okay? So yeah, I understand right now what you read here, like number 24, if we start working on number 24, oh, number 24, travel time, a plane, what it has to do with us? Not even in maybe 100 years that traveling with plane has anything to do with business, right? At least that's what we think right now, right? But just think like, okay, what I'm doing right now is to practice my logic, to practice my how to bridge what I read and translate it into mathematical notation, such that when I really face the real business problems in future, I can translate that more complicated situation into mathematical equations. Okay, and it starts from easy little practices like this. Now, when I say easy, of course, the assumption is you need to first make it relevant to you. At least think of that as this has something to do with my life in long run. Okay. Okay. Let's see number 24. Sorry with my long talk, but I hope this talk really encourage you. First, don't look down on yourself. Second, there's a way to be successful in word problems. Okay. And third, yes, it is a hard word, but it's doable. Study hard, study smart. Okay. Number 24. Travel time for a plane traveling at r kilometers per hour for 900 kilometers. So the traveling time. What we know is distance equals to rate times time. Right? If the distance is 900 kilometers and the rate is r, what will the t be? Then the time will be 900 over r. Is it right? That's the travel time. So you see how I start with this distance equals to rate times time? That's for number 24. Number 26. The sale price of an item. So we need to find the sale price here. Okay. Should we call that S? Let's call that S. So number 26, let's say let S equals to the sale price. Okay, now this sale price is discounted 33% of its price. L. L is the price. L is the original price. Okay, and then you discount it 33%. Original price. Now, what will the discount be? The discount is 33%, right, of L. So the sale price will be the original price minus 33% of that L. Does it make sense? 33%, or you can say 0.33, right? Okay, now, actually at this point you are done. You're done. That's the answer for number 26. But let's go on a little bit because you are in business major. Let's go on a little bit. Okay. Now, in decimal, this will be 0.33L. If we combine like terms, and there will be 1 minus 0.33, that's 0.67L. Let's think about this first. What is this 0.67? 0.67 in percentage is 67%. Right? Does it make sense? Yeah, the difference between 1 minus 0.33, okay? Or if we look at that back in percentage, this 67%